All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. If you would stand with me for the invocation. Please join me in a moment of quiet reflection or prayer according to your own traditions. Heavenly Father, we gather here today as neighbors and public servants, entrusted with the welfare of St. Lucie County. We ask for your guidance and wisdom as we undertake the business of this community. Give us the clarity to focus on the tangible needs of our residents, the infrastructure, the public safety, and the future of our home. Lord, we live in an era where communication is instant and where it is all too easy for words to outpace our better judgment. We acknowledge that in this public square and even on the digital screens in our pockets, passions can run high. Noise can sometimes drown out reason, and the things that divide us can overshadow the deep roots that bind us together. Today, we ask for the grace to hit pause on the distractions. Let us remember that true leadership is not found in the heat of a comment section or the friction of a timeline, but in the collaborative face-to-face work we do in this chamber. Help us to extend grace to one another, to listen with patience, and to respect the differing perspectives that our colleagues bring to this dais. Remind us that despite any temporary disagreements or online noise, our ultimate mission is identical: to serve the people of St. Lucie County with integrity, honor, and mutual respect. May our actions today reflect the best of who we are, and may our decisions bring prosperity and peace to all of our citizens. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are going to recess for a moment and go into our two special district meetings, and we'll start with erosion.
We will come to order as the erosion district. If there is any public comment for the erosion district specifically, please come up to the podium. You will have 3 minutes to address the erosion district. Seeing nobody move for the erosion district, we will close public comment, and we will move to the approval of the minutes for the June 2nd, 2026 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. At this time, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So approve. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. This is the end of the erosion district agenda. We will adjourn.
And with that, we'll move over into mosquito control.
Okay, we come together as the Mosquito Control District. First item of business is public comment. Is there anyone that would like to address this board at this time? Okay, seeing no movement. Next, we have approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Next is consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve consent?
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. There is nothing on the regular agenda, so now we are moving to adjourn.
All right, and we are back to our regular meeting. With that, I need a approval for the agenda with the additions, deletions, and revisions.
Motion to approve?
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. No presentations. At this time, I'll go ahead and open it up to public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board will be provided 3 minutes. You'll come to the podium. Please give us your first and last name so that the recording secretary can take it down along with your address. There's a little stoplight looking contraption up there. It's green, yellow, red, and exactly like what you would think. If you're still talking when it's red, I'll ask that you please go ahead and wrap it up. All right, and at this time, public comment is now open.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Corey Speaker. My address is exempt from public disclosure per FS 119.07.
Yes, sir.
And at this time, I would like to yield my time to Tina Speaker.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Understood. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. My name is Tina Speaker. My address is also exempt from public disclosure by Florida Statute 119071. Last year, the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office received an unprecedented increase of $18 million in county funding. That was a historic investment made by the taxpayers of this county. Now, just 1 year later, the Sheriff's Office is requesting an additional $13 million in funding. This increase represents a 32% expansion of the sheriff's budget and raises a fundamental question. Has St. Lucie County grown enough to justify this level of spending? The sheriff campaigned on transparency. Transparency, however, requires more than just asking for additional funding. It requires providing taxpayers and elected officials with a complete financial picture. Where is the complete accounting of all funding sources available to the Sheriff's Office? Where is the accounting of revenues received from the St. Lucie County School Board? Where are the trust funds, the grant-funded positions, inmate welfare positions, and other funding streams that support personnel and operations? Where is the accounting of federal funding sources, partnerships, and programs that provide financial support to this agency? These funding streams are supporting salaries, benefits, personnel, equipment, and operations. Shouldn't this board and the public be able to see the entire financial picture before asking for millions of additional taxpayer dollars? How can this board make fully informed budget decisions if significant revenue sources are absent from this discussion? Let me be clear. No reasonable person disputes the importance of law enforcement and the need to recruit, retain, and fairly compensate deputies and civilian employees. But supporting law enforcement and demanding accountability are not mutually exclusive. They go hand in hand. What is perhaps most concerning is not simply the amount of funding being requested, but the priorities reflected within that request. The public is repeatedly told that additional funding is necessary to support deputies and employees. If that's the case, taxpayers deserve to know why executive and command level positions continue to expand while the agency simultaneously seeks another substantial increase in taxpayer support. Taxpayers should be provided with a clear operational justification for not just the addition of a second full-time staff attorney at $214,000, an additional chief financial officer position at $284,000, and many other command and executive level positions that have been added. These are legitimate questions of fiscal stewardship. What workload analysis were conducted to justify these additions? What operational deficiencies were identified that requires these new executive level positions? How will these command executive level positions improve response times, increase patrol staffing, enhance detention operations, reduce crime, and improve measurable public safety outcomes? Taxpayers are entitled to understand not only the cost of these positions, but the value that they are expected to provide. Equally important here is the broader issues of this agency's organizational growth. The St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office employs 800 personnel, yet the continued expansion of executive and command level positions increasingly resembles organizational structures found in agencies that are substantially larger. For perspective, the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office employs more than 7,000 personnel, many times the size of the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office. Taxpayers should be asking, why is an agency with 800 employees continuing to expand its executive ranks in a manner that more closely resembles agencies serving vastly larger population and employing thousands more personnel? This comparison is particularly important because our most comparable neighboring agencies, Martin and Indian River County, they do not appear to maintain the same level of executive and command level overhead. The issue is whether continued growth at the executive level represents the best use of taxpayer dollars at a time when the public is being told that additional funding is necessary to support deputies and employees. If deputy compensation is the priority, then show us how these tax dollars directly support the deputies and the staff. If public safety is the priority, then show us how these expenditures directly improve public safety. Hiring SWAT members for protection while at certain community events is just one example of these questionable expenditures. I still have time.
I'll ask you to wrap it up. Try to paraphrase.
Okay, so the issue before this board tonight is not whether we support law enforcement. The issue is whether the Board of County Commissioners and the taxpayer of St. Lucie County are being provided all of the information necessary to justify another substantial increase in public spending. Transparency was promised, accountability is expected.
Thank you. We're still under public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board? Hi, good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good, and you?
My name's Ezra Forte. I live at 1354 Southwest Bellevue Ave in Port St. Lucie, Florida. I'm here today because I feel that animal safety and the Health and Safety Department is not representing this county and its values well. About a month ago, on June 20th, my fiance and I found a dog on the side of Canal 24. We looked up the proper and right thing to do. It says to call animal safety. Right? That dog would go on a 5-day straight hold for someone to claim. So that's what we did. We called animal safety, and a deputy was sent out from the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Department. We turned that dog over. That dog was kind, gentle, and harmless. In a moment of survival, when she was alone, malnourished, just had puppies, she was gentle. We called frequently, following up on this dog, letting them know we were willing to adopt. This went on for weeks. Finally, one day they said that the dog had been sent to a rescue, but would not tell us which one. My fiance was devastated. I went to the animal safety shelter myself, and I spoke with a worker there. She said it had gone to a rescue in the Treasure Coast, but would not tell us which one. We continued to reach out and try and find more answers. We finally spoke with Maria Valencia, who misquoted a Florida state statute and misrepresented it. She then told us that dog could have gone to any shelter, any rescue in Florida. I then reached out to Commissioner Clasby and got a very swift response. Thank you for that, by the way. Ron Guerrero then called me the next morning. He said he was doing an internal investigation, and he asked for a week. I thought that was acceptable. When Ron finally called me, he said that the dog had been put down. When I asked why, he said the dog was violent. Now again, based off my previous statement, based off what I saw, that dog was not violent. She was harmless. I then asked how this contradiction could be. He said the dog may have turned violent when she got to the shelter. That seems unlikely to me, but who am I to contradict, correct? I then asked why we were lied to. Why tell us that that dog went to a rescue? Why have me and my fiance calling every single rescue in the Treasure Coast, corresponding through text messages and phone calls, going in person to the ones who did not respond if that dog was put down? He told me, well, that's he said, she said. That didn't sit well with me. It doesn't sit well with me. We called animal safety to do the right thing. We want to believe in this county and this commission. We want to do the right thing and feel as if we did the right thing. Unfortunately, we don't. I would like accountability and answers. I would like those responsible to be held responsible. We're talking about a dog here, but at the end of the day, How are we supposed to trust in this commission, in this county's services, if you can't be honest about something like this? Thank you.
Thank you. We are still under public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board? Good evening, Colt.
Good evening. I just want to make sure, is this the right time? Because I want to speak on item 12A.
Yes, because it's a regular agenda item without public comment, so yes, now would be the time.
Okay, thank you. For the record, Colt Swart, Public Works Director for the City of Port St. Lucie. So I'd like to speak here tonight on behalf of the consideration of putting the sales tax in referendum on the ballot or not. I can state confidently that within my time with Public Works, I've seen what the sales tax revenue has done for the residents of the city and the residents of Port St. Lucie. We've been able to make roads safer and more efficient. We've connected neighborhoods with new sidewalks. We've improved stormwater systems, reducing flood risk, enhancing water quality for local roadways. Some of the key projects we've worked on is intersection improvements on St. Lucie West Boulevard at the intersections of Cashmere, Bayshore, and Peacock. We are in the final stages of an RFP package for California Boulevard widening from St. Lucie West down to Crosstown. We have completed phases 2 of 3 for the Floresta Boulevard project, with phase 3 currently underway and doing very well as far as the project schedule is concerned. Torino Parkway, we constructed some roundabouts at the intersections of California Boulevard and Cashmere Boulevard, providing some much needed congestion improvements. Been able to take on some landscaping projects for US 1 for more than a 3-mile stretch that really enhanced the city and the county. Additionally, because of the sales tax revenue, nearly 104 miles of roadways have been repaved in the city alone. Without that, we would be extremely far behind. Additionally, 17 sidewalk construction projects resulting in approximately 3.7 miles have been added to the city's network. This is part of the 10-year sidewalk master plan that we are currently updating, and it's a perpetual plan. So our request is simply let the residents decide whether or not to continue the sales tax referendum. I think we owe all the residents that. By providing the sales tax referendum, it allows for very much long-term planning, which, as everyone here on this board is aware, roadway projects, sidewalk projects, they take many years, especially if we're going to try and maximize funding and get grant funding to go along with this. So allowing any kind of gap in sales tax revenue can really be detrimental to the overall long-term planning within the city and the county. We've begun planning and working closely with county staff on what type of projects would be pursued if the sales tax referendum is done. One of the big ones, which I think is any resident would say is needed, the widening of St. Lucie West Boulevard. That's been long overdue. It carries a very similar amount of traffic to US 1, so we know it's definitely needed. So what we would like is, again, to make sure we try and give the residents the opportunity to voice on this and continue allowing us to collaborate with your county staff and making progress on much needed infrastructure projects throughout the county. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Matiajic, 2417 Southwest Washington Street, Port St. Lucie, Florida. I'm the Special Assistant to the City Manager and Utility Director, serving the residents of Port St. Lucie. And if I may follow or echo comments made by Colt, there's a direct correlation of infrastructure and quality of life. And not allowing an opportunity for residents to have a say and vote to extend this sales tax referendum, I think it's a disservice as it relates to the improvements that must be done. There is a public meeting tomorrow. The city is holding its biannual workshop in which a consultant has performed a feasibility study specifically on St. Lucie West Boulevard, which is a major corridor. Whether you're traversing that roadway to attend a Mets game at Clover Park or the South County Annex Building or one of the many businesses along that corridor, it's an evacuation route. It's the premier project in which the city staff supports getting that done. And having it on the ballot, it's my understanding, is not at an added expense. Our residents are already going to be voting. but really allow them the opportunity to have a say in what, what improvements they do want to see and whether or not to extend that. Because 2 years waiting for even a vote, it allows the city to continue to plan and design, and it is city staff's recommendation. Again, it hasn't publicly been discussed with council yet, but would be the desire to do a design build so that we move straight into making progress on the widening of that very important corridor to our city. So again, I respectfully, appreciate your time and consideration, and really want you to think about the residents and affording them the opportunity to at least have a say and giving them an opportunity. And comments made at your own workshop were some of the benefits of the sales tax is it's everybody who visits. It's not just residents. And whether you're visiting the area, that's helping offset that infrastructure that's in place that helps support that visitor. So I appreciate your time and consideration, and thank you.
Thank you. Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Sarah Prohaska. I'm the Communications Director at the City of Port St. Lucie. I'm here on behalf of the City Manager's Office. They have asked me today, we received a letter from Ken Kroll, who is the chairman of both the St. Lucie County and the City of Port St. Lucie Sales Tax Oversight Committee, and I was asked to please read it into the record if your comment, if you would
Absolutely.
allow that.
Yes.
Okay. So this is from Ken Kroll. Honorable Chair, members of the board, I respectfully request that the Board of County Commissioners consider placing an extension of the voter-approved infrastructure sales tax on the November 2026 ballot rather than waiting until the current authorization expires in 2028. As a member of both the St. Lucie County and the City of Port St. Lucie Infrastructure Surtax Citizens Oversight Committees since their inception in 2018, and currently serving as both chair of both committees, I have the unique opportunity to observe this program from both the countywide and the municipal perspectives. Over the last 8 years, I have witnessed firsthand how these funds have been reasonably managed, independently reviewed, and invested in projects that have improved transportation, stormwater management, public safety, mobility, environmental quality, and overall quality of life throughout St. Lucie County. Both oversight committees have consistently confirmed that surtax expenditures have remained consistent with Florida statutes. The infrastructure sales tax surtax has proven to be one of the most successful and accountable infrastructure funding initiatives in our community's history. Through independent citizen oversight, public reporting, and transparent financial accountability, residents have been able to see exactly how these revenues have been invested in projects that directly benefit our communities. The results are visible throughout St. Lucie County. During FY 2024-2025 alone, the surtax generated more than $15.5 million to support county-wide infrastructure investments, with dozens of projects completed and additional improvements underway or planned. Within the City of Port St. Lucie, surtax funding has contributed to approximately 13.7 miles of new sidewalks, more than 104 miles of roadway resurfacing, pedestrian and bicycle safety improvements, traffic signal upgrades, stormwater and drainage enhancements, and major transportation projects such as the Floristic Corridor Improvement Program. These investments have improved safety, mobility, and connectivity and resilience throughout our growing community. Nearly a decade after voter approval, the county and municipalities have delivered on commitments made to the public. Better roads, expanded sidewalk networks, improved drainage systems, cleaner waterways, and enhanced transportation infrastructure are tangible examples of how these funds have improved the daily lives of residents throughout St. Lucie County. I recognize and appreciate the board's continued commitment to the infrastructure sales surtax and the significant benefits it has provided to St. Lucie County, the City of Port St. Lucie, and the county's other municipalities. The success of this partnership is evident in infrastructure improvements delivered throughout our region. My request is not based on concerns about support for the program, rather than on the timing of a future referendum. By placing the question before voters in November 2026, the board would provide certainty for long-term, long-range planning, allow ample time for public education and discussion, and give residents the opportunity to weigh in on the future of this important funding source well before the current authorization expires. Doing so would also provide the county and the cities with greater confidence as they plan future infrastructure improvements and address the needs of our growing communities with help, while helping avoid potential funding gaps. There are several more, but I'll skip to the end of this. Having served on both oversight committees since the surtax was first approved by voters in 2018, I have seen firsthand the positive impacts this program has had on St. Lucie County and the city. The infrastructure sales surtax has demonstrated that a transparent, accountable, and voter-approved funding program can deliver meaningful improvements that enhance public safety, mobility, economic development, and quality of life through our community. I believe providing the voters the opportunity to consider the future of the successful program in 2026 will ensure that the momentum and progress achieved over the past 8 years continue well into the future. Thank you for your consideration and your leadership and your continued commitment to improving the quality of life for residents in St. Lucie County. Once again, that was Ken Kroll, who chairs both of our surtax committees. And City Manager Jesus Murillo has also mailed a letter urging you to please allow the referendum to go forward in November 2026.
Yes,
Thank
we
you.
received it. Thank you. All right, we are still under public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board? All right. If there's no one wishing to address the board, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. And we are going to move into our one proclamation for the evening for Glioblastoma Awareness Day.
Resolution number 26-124, a resolution proclaiming July 15th, 2026 as Glioblastoma Awareness Day in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. Glioblastoma, GBM, is the most aggressive, complex, and treatment-resistant form of primary brain cancer, accounting for more than half of all malignant primary brain tumors diagnosed in adults. It is often described as a disease that attacks the essence of self, affecting memory, personality, speech, mobility, and other vital functions. While presenting extraordinary challenges to treatment due to the delicate nature of the brain, approximately 14,000 Americans will be diagnosed with glioblastoma in 2026, and more than 10,000 individuals are expected to lose their lives to this devastating disease. Despite decades of research, glioblastoma remains one of the deadliest cancers, with a median survival of approximately 8 months and a 5-year survival rate of only 7%. Brain cancer patients face some of the highest out-of-pocket medical expenses among all cancer diagnoses, creating significant financial and emotional burdens for families. Patients, caregivers, clinicians, researchers, and advocates play a critical role in advancing research, improving quality of life, and accelerating the search for more effective treatments and ultimately a cure. There is a critical need to increase public awareness of glioblastoma, support patients and families affected by the disease, and encourage greater investment in research, innovation, and treatment development. There are currently no screening or early detection methods for glioblastoma, and although scientific advances continue to provide hope, significant obstacles remain in developing effective therapies. Since glioblastoma was first identified in medical literature more than a century ago, only a limited number of therapies have been approved specifically for its treatment, while mortality rates have changed little over the past 3 decades. Glioblastoma Awareness Day honors patients, survivors, caregivers, and loved ones, remembers those who have lost their lives in this disease, and recognizes the dedicated professionals and advocates working tirelessly to improve outcomes for those affected. Local organizations, including BRAIN, Bringing Resources and Information Now, Cancer Foundation of the Treasure Coast, Beauty for Brains, and Tori Rose Foundation provide vital support, education, advocacy, and hope to brain tumor patients and their families throughout our community. As part of its mission, the Brain Cancer Foundation of the Treasure Coast travels annually to Washington, D.C. to advocate for increased federal funding for glioblastoma research, raising awareness and promote legislative action on behalf of brain tumor patients nationwide. Now therefore be resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida, does hereby proclaim July 15th, 2026 as Glioblastoma Awareness Day in St. Lucie County, Florida, passed and duly adopted this 21st day of July, 2026.
Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 26120.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have with us tonight Stephanie Ankiel from the Brain Cancer Foundation of the Treasure Coast.
After you say a few words, please come up and we'll do a photo. Okay.
Good evening, and thank you, County Commissioners, for this proclamation recognizing glioblastoma Awareness Day. I founded Brain Cancer of the Treasure Coast after losing my late husband, Mark Cunningham, to glioblastoma. What began as a personal journey has grown into a mission to ensure that no family has to face brain cancer alone. Today, our foundation provides support for patients and caregivers, educational resources, and opportunities for families to connect with others who truly understand this journey. Each year, we also travel to Washington, D.C., to meet with members of Congress and advocate for increased funding for brain cancer tumor research. Right here in our own community, we currently are supporting 24 local brain cancer patients. Let me go ahead and repeat that. Right here in our own community, we are currently supporting 24 local brain cancer patients, 7 living with glioblastoma. Every one of those numbers represents a person, a family, and a life forever changed. My hope is that one day we will better understand why so many families in our community are facing brain cancer. Until that day comes, I will continue to fight. I will continue to be a voice for those who no longer have one, including my late husband, and I will keep speaking until our cries for help are heard. But I can't do this alone. I ask each of you to stand with us, help raise awareness, support local families, and advocate for increased funding for glioblastoma research. Together, we can bring hope to those facing this devastating diagnosis and move closer to a future where no family has to endure this loss. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. If you guys want to come up and we'll do a photo with the board. Thank you for being here. Thank you.
And with that, I need a motion for the approval of the minutes for the joint meeting with the City of Fort Pierce on June 18th and the regular meeting of July 7th. I have approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the consent.
I have a motion, but I have a question.
Okay, Commissioner Townsend.
On item 10G2, is Joanne here?
Yes, I see her.
Joanne, I have a question. You can just shake your head. Have all the residents that live on this road been notified of this?
As she comes up, Chair, the other residents are on the side street, so they don't have an address on this road. It's only one individual family that has an address on this road.
Okay, never mind. She answered it.
All right, so a motion, is there a second? And there was a second, correct? Yes. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We go into our public hearings.
So, County Attorney, the animal ordinance.
Chair, Commissioners, for the record, this will be handled by Assistant County Attorney Chloe Leadham. We are requesting a continuance. There's some typos and other items in there that we would like to fix, but it is a public hearing. We'd ask that you open it, and then if there's no, after the public comment, continue it to the August 5th agenda.
August 5th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so our first public hearing item for amending our animal ordinance, we are going to go ahead and we won't be voting on that this evening. We're going to actually be pushing that to the August 5th meeting. However, if there's anyone here that was intending to speak on that item.
August 4th, I apologize. I said the wrong date.
August 4th.
August, okay, see, I had the 4th, that's why I was, okay. So my apologies, August 4th, we'll officially be voting on the item. In case you cannot be here and you wanted to speak on this item, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the floor and you'll have 3 minutes to speak to us about this item. So if anyone's wanting to speak on amending Chapter 6 for the animal ordinance, now would be your time to come up to the podium and speak with us. Hi, good evening.
Hi, do you need my address?
Name and address, yes, ma'am.
Lasana Hayes, 168 Imperial Way. I am in support of the trap neuter release program. Unfortunately, I did not get a copy of the ordinance that's up to be changed. So I need an opportunity to review it before I make a complete recommendation as to my thoughts. But I did previously experience a problem with somebody that lives close within the vicinity of my property who lived there for 6 years with no issue with the cats. All of a sudden decided he had an issue. And we have been back and forth quite a bit. I have been harassed, maliciously prosecuted, and some questionable things have occurred with the cats that I cannot prove or disprove. So I do want to say that I am in full support of trap neuter release. What I do and quite another number of other people within the community do have had studies. Out of New York, the first study was done on what it does for the county or cities when people participate in trap neuter release. It saves the counties hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in the way of not having to send somebody to trap them, not having to house them, not having to pay for the medications to take care of them, and subsequently, possibly, if they're not adopted, the medications to put them down. Disposal cost, and so forth. There are a lot of costs that are involved when the county takes care of these animals and takes them into their facilities. Also, there is an issue with when trap neuter release cats are removed from a particular area, that the majority, or if not all, of the cats are fixed, and you remove those cats from that area, new cats will predominantly come into that area from surrounding areas that are not fixed, and it will start the whole problem in that particular area all over again. And then the person like me or the county will have to come in and get the cats fixed and start all over again. The reason trap neuter release is good is because the cats that are there to begin with that are fixed are territorial. They will keep the other cats away. So once you have your group of cats fixed and cared for, it will keep the other ones away, and then people can work in their other areas to take care of the cats that are not fixed instead of creating a vacuum. So I do think there should be some more strenuous regulations on false reports, and they should be held liable to the felony count for abusing 911 or abusing our county taxpayer dollars. So I will probably speak further on this when I have more of an opportunity to read over the ordinance and make recommendations. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here. Okay, and with that, we're still under public comment for this item. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Seeing no movement, come back to the board. Is there a motion?
Motion to continue this item to August 4th at 6 p.m. or soon thereafter.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Moving on to the next is going to be Sunnyland Farms. This item, if you're following along on the agenda, items 1, 2, and 3 regarding Sunnyland Farms and Sunnyland 44 All three items, the applicant is asking for a continuance to the September 15th meeting. I am, however, we're going to go ahead and do our disclosures because this is quasi-judicial, and we'll follow the same process as the previous item and open it up to public comment for anyone that would like to comment tonight that might be here on those items. So with that, Mr. Clasby, would you start with your disclosures?
Yes, in this item, I've met with staff, the applicant, and members of the public.
Staff, Brian Nolan with Lucido and Associates.
I too have met with planning staff and Brian Nolan and the applicant via telephone.
Staff, the applicant, a few neighbors, and Brian Nolan.
All right, thank you. Corey?
Madam Chair, members of the board, as noted, staff is recommending that the board take action on the continuance request. We don't see any particular conflicts with the requested date.
Okay. So with that, if there's anyone, I'm going to open it up to public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on this particular item? Seeing no movement, I'm going to close it and come back to the board for a motion.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Clasby.
I had a couple of questions for staff before we continue it. So Corey, this land here, this first one, this is the larger parcel of the two, is that right?
That is correct. It's currently zoned PUD. However, that plan has expired and the applicant is requesting to reauthorize it with a new preliminary plan.
Could we just get, my opportunity, we're all here as a board, could we get the history of that PUD approval? What year was that approved?
Chair Fowler, Commissioner Clasby, roughly 2006 to 2008 was when the preliminary plan was evaluated and authorized. However, due to lack of development activity, it expired.
2006, 2008 era, that part of Orange Avenue, I mean, there wasn't much else there in the terms of residential development, is that right? I mean, the newer Renar and those communities, were they there yet?
The Morningside PUD had launched development activity, but was in its very initial stage and phase. That Palm Breezes Club was the preceding name for that community and had a few different designs, but that was roughly the onset. But in the way of light industrial and development at the vicinity of Orange Avenue and Kings Highway, it was very light and limited. We had one of the truck stops there, which of course have doubled in size and activity since then.
So you mentioned that it's a PUD that's expired. What does that mean legally?
Well, as of today, the applicant has the option to pursue rezoning back to the prior agricultural zoning designation and pursue development under it. They have the ability to propose another compatible zoning district with the, again, as mentioned, compatibility with the future land use designation, which could be something like the residential estate 1, residential estate 2, or residential suburban 2, pursuing 2 dwelling units per acre under those standard zoning districts, or as they've presented a plan unit development to rezone and present a new preliminary plan. As we know, the preliminary PUD plans can have a variety of details and design features, but what they've proposed is very similar to the prior plan.
And so, I mean, I had a meeting with the applicant at my office, and part of what I shared with them is that I needed more time to look over everything and kind of learn what the legalities of their project are. And my understanding was that they didn't change much from their original PUD that's expired. However, if you go back from 2006 to today, that area has changed drastically. And I do not think that a project that might have been compatible in 2006 can be copied and pasted in 2026 and be compatible. So my first glance to them was that this project has too many homes on it, it's too intense for the area. And they asked what would my recommendation be, and I said my recommendation would be to go back to the previous zoning and develop it under that. So I just wanted to share that with the board.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the board?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lowry.
Just looking at the staff report, lot sizes proposed, and under what was proposed back in 2006 is a lot smaller than what we could potentially go back to the residential estate. I mean, that's kind of the vision I'd like to see the county moving in, where we're, 2 houses per acre seems
much more reasonable than this higher density. So I think it's, we need to continue it, but we need to continue to have conversations with them again.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Clasby?
And Corey, so just to clarify for me, the previous zoning was AG1 or AR1?
Commissioner, I'll get that pulled open to be certain, but it was agricultural 1, AG1.
And in AG1, does that allow a 1 unit per acre?
That's
And
correct.
it allows an accessory dwelling unit to be on the same lot?
To clarify, it allows an accessory guest home that cannot be
guest home.
rented or sold, but yes, traditionally 1 acre lots or greater, a primary residence, the ability to have a guest home, as well as other agricultural uses.
So essentially, AG1 zoning could allow for 2 units per acre, but both units need to be under 1 ownership.
In theory, yes. So we don't calculate the guest home as part of the density, but in theory, you could have 2 homes per acre structurally, yes.
Right, okay.
Okay.
If there's nothing else,
I feel a motion coming on.
I'll make a motion to continue to September 15th at 6 p.m. or soon thereafter.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, with that, Sunnyland 44, we'll do disclosures again. Commissioner Clasby?
I've met with staff, the applicants, and members of the public.
My disclosures are the same.
Likewise, actually, this one is the one that is not quasi-judicial, so my apologies. See, that was a test. You failed. No, just kidding.
I just do it.
Okay, so with that, this item is also looking to be requested to, or continued to September 15th. If you'd like to speak on this item, however, I'm going to open the floor. Seeing no movement, I'm going to come back to the board. Questions, comments, or a motion?
Madam Chair, before we
Commissioner
do a motion, I'd like to comment on this one as well.
Motion noted. Commissioner Clasby, go ahead, sir.
So, Mr. Benton, with this one, this is Sunnyland 44. This is the smaller parcel. Just kind of my memory here, the smaller parcel that they are looking to change the future land use, which is why this one's legislative rather than quasi-judicial. And with the land use change, they're looking to specifically increase density. Is that right?
That is correct, Commissioner. And they are proposing a mixed-use development category, proposing up to 2.95 dwelling units per acre, an increase from the existing 2, which is established by the residential suburban future land use category.
So today, the residential suburban future land use on that lot allows for up to
2 dwelling units per acre.
2 dwelling units per acre. And I shared with the applicant as well that I think anything in addition to that would not be compatible with the area. So just to share that with the board as well as we look to continue this.
Okay, noted. So there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, Sunnyland 44. Commissioner Clasby, this one we really do have disclosure, sir.
I've spoke with staff, the applicant, and the public.
Staff, Brian Nolan.
Planning and Development staff, Brian Nolan, and applicant.
Staff, applicant, Brian Nolan, and a couple neighbors.
Okay. Likewise, anyone wishing to address the board on this item, please come to the podium. Seeing, good evening.
How y'all doing today? Justin Harrison, 6705 Paso Robles, Lakewood Park. I wasn't going to speak much tonight since this was being tabled, but just kind of wanted to, put this on the record that, Orange Avenue Extension, 2-lane road, we've got the new window manufacturing that's going right there on Rock Road, just to the east of where this location is going to be at. It's going to add a lot of additional, truck traffic, employee traffic, things of that nature. It's a 2-lane road. So adding these additional houses, adding additional traffic, there's definitely going to need some looking into red lights, widening the road, turn lanes, all of those types of things, especially out in that rural area, because that's kind of what it was. I do like the thought on, keeping things more rural and, 2 units per acre. But, looking at a lot of the development plans and site plans that have been coming up, they may meet those requirements, but they're still throwing things on 50-foot lots, 60-foot lots, small driveways, unusable, properties that, again, it fits the developer, and I understand why, everything of that nature, but at some point, people do like having a yard. They like to have, an inflatable in their backyard, or have a pool in their backyard, and have some room to actually have friends and family over and enjoy that type of stuff. That's kind of the way this town's always been, regardless if you lived, in the city of Port St. Lucie, or if you lived west of town, Indian River Estates, Lakewood Park. Everybody kind of had a little bit of land, and all the new developments that's coming in here is just, let's cram everybody in the corner and then put a lake over here. I talk to a lot of people, and there are some people that are coming into town that are used to living in that type of neighborhood, and they're okay with it. But people that are from Florida, from the area, that want to have more space for their friends, family, and personal items. So that's just something I want to kind of put out there, just to keep in mind. And in the density of things, the density is a great thing to talk about, but how we're laying all the projects out, I think, is just as important. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board on this item? Seeing no one, I'm going to close comment and come back to the board.
Move to continue to September 15th, 6 p.m. or soon thereafter.
Second. Thank you. A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on for Kelly Road for the road paving waiver. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, Tahir Curry, and with me is Grant Chambers from Engineering. Agenda item 11B4 is the request for a fair share proportionate contributions for Kelly Road and Pineapple Lane. The public notice was noticed with a display in the local newspaper on July 9th, 2026, and mailed out notices to property owners within 500 feet. Notice was sent out to property owners within 500 feet of the subject site. The planning department did not receive any feedback or responses back. Just to give you where the location is, it is south of Orange Avenue, located between South Header Canal and between Sneed Road to the east and west. And it is between Pineapple Lane, which is to the north, and Kelly Road to the south. The address of the property is 18496 Kelly Road. And to give you the zoning is AG5, Agriculture 5. Just to give you a little history of this area, on July 11th, 2023, the board passed Resolution 23115, granting a paving waiver for a subdivision known as 195-acre tract for a 7-lot subdivision. And on November 27, 2023, the planning department did approve that minor site plan, but that was only approved for 5 acres. They didn't do the 7. That was approved in the paving waiver. They decided to do a reduction, and they did it as 5. And the plat was recorded on May 1st, 2024. To show you the site plan, that was approved. It shows, as I mentioned, 195-acre Pineapple Lane. So Lot A, it's the further subdivision into 3 lots. So that is the lot that's in question. The other lots, B through E, are not in question. They were already platted, such as this lot, but this is a further subdivision, Lot A. And this is a site plan showing that. The minor site plan, it is 113 acres to a 3-lot subdivision. Kelly Road and Pineapple Lane are county-maintained unapproved roadways. The petitioner requests the Board of County Commissioners approve the road paving waiver and waive the proportionate fair share contributions for paving the roadways to county standards, based on the determination that such improvements are not essential to provide access to the proposed development. Some information on Kelly Road and Pineapple Lane. They are county-maintained substandard roadways. Kelly Road and Pineapple Lane right-of-ways are at 50 feet. 35 feet of right-of-way was dedicated during the previous site plan that I had up. The proportionate share values for those roadways is $336,836.71 for Kelly Road, and Pineapple Lane is $217,886.06 for Pineapple Lane. When we look at these paving waivers, we factor in the section of the code 70507B2. Is the road paving waiver is not essential to provide adequate access. Number 2, the road paving waiver is not a part of the county's 5-year plan, and that the access road does not have adequate right-of-way to construct the necessary paving improvements. As mentioned, Pineapple Lane and Kelly Road are not a part of the county's 5-year plan, and Kelly Road and Pineapple Lane are, as I mentioned, county-owned and maintained but unimproved. The existing right-of-ways width is not sufficient to meet the county standards. The road and paving waiver conforms to the standards of review as set forth in the St. Louis County Land Development Code, Section 70507B2, and is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the St. Lucie County Comprehensive Plan. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners approve the paving waiver and associated proportionate fair share contributions subject to the condition of approval outlined in the draft resolution. Which the developer shall include language on the plat stating that the owners of his and hers assigns of the lots to participate in the yes vote and lawfully to establish an MSTU or MSBU or other special assignments districts created for the purpose of providing paving and or drainage improvements to Kelly Road and Pineapple Lane. This includes staff presentation for Kelly Road and Pineapple Lane. Do you have any questions?
All right, thank you. Questions, comments before I open it up for public comment? All right, this is a public hearing item. Anyone wishing to address the board on this item? Good evening.
Good evening. Justin Harrison again, 6705 Pass Robles. I think that it's a good thing that we start doing more projects like this, right? Because for so long, it's very hard to do, the rural developments of a 5-acre, 20-acre, 1-acre tract type of development because of the additional costs that it requires you to have the pavement and the drainage and all of those things. So I understand why, but when you're out in some of these places, the dirt roads are the staple of how you get to those houses, right? So approving these types of things, some of those questions I have is how is this going to look for, other people in the future whenever they want to do, developments? Is this going to potentially open up that door so we can have more of these rural developments coming in if this is approved? Because I understand that the 2 other roads don't meet the standards, but the property itself has enough room that he could meet the standards. I don't agree that he should, right? Like I think that it should definitely be waived and it should be a dirt road. But that becomes the question is if he has enough room to be able to do it even though the others aren't, does that mean that when other people want to come in with a development similar to this that is a 5-acre, 10-acre, 20-acre tract, are they going to be able to have the same, road waiver or road pavement waiver happen on something like that? Because that's going to make a big difference on the cost for the developer to be able to put those types of communities in and see what we actually want to see in the community rather than the asphalt everywhere. So it's just kind of a question, food for thought on how does that actually affect other developments in the future with this one.
Thank you. We'll make sure to address that question. Anyone else on this item? Seeing no movement, we'll come back to the board. So the road paving waiver is something
it's a provision that exists in our code that applicants can request if they meet certain criteria. Do you want to maybe run through that real quick? Are you able to pull that up, or Maite, someone, Grant? Whoever wants to take it.
Good evening. Grant Chambers of the Engineering Division. Yes, one of the factors that goes into the road paving waiver requests are traffic and intensity. For projects like this, the threshold is typically 100 trips per day is where our code makes the differentiation between large and small traffic generator. So historically, on ag properties like these, that's more or less 10 homes or less where this has been available to them. In this scenario, since the road is existing in its current condition and allowing access to the properties and other properties like this, that's where this falls in.
Thank you. Okay, this item is quasi-judicial. Commissioner Clasby, I'm going to go ahead and have you do your disclosures.
I met with staff and the applicant on this.
Ben and Corey, staff on this.
Planning staff for me as well. Planning staff. All right. Questions, comments? Commissioner Clasby.
I was going to wait till Commissioner comment section, but I think it's appropriate to kind of just introduce the thought of it now. These road paving waivers, especially for larger parcels that are destined to become, 1 or 2 houses on them, we should make that easier for people to apply for and receive. It almost should be administrative, I think, especially if they've already been approved for one and it's a small modification. It's kind of crazy that they have to come all the way back to the board to change it. I want to encourage this type of development. When people want to develop a large piece of land, they don't need to have a 2-lane county standard road, leading to their house if they don't want it. So it lowers the cost of construction to be able to do that, and I support this.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, no, we've always usually approved these for that reason. Need a motion? I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. We have another road paving waiver for C4 Acres. We'll do it in the right process this time. Commissioner Clasby, disclosures?
I've met with staff and the applicant.
Ben and Corey.
Yeah, planning staff.
Planning staff.
All right. You're back up.
Yes, back up. Again, Tahir Curry and Grant Chambers for the record. Agenda item 11B5 is a request for paving requirements and proportionate fair share contributions for Williams Road. The public hearing was noticed with a display in the local newspaper on July 9th, 2026, and mailed out notices to property owners within 500 feet. Proof was provided within the agenda packet. Mailed out notices sent out to 500 feet, as mentioned. The planning department didn't receive any responses back. And just to provide you a location of the site is south of Midway Road, and it is approximately 4,200 feet west of McCarthy Road. The subject site zoning is AG5, Agriculture 5 zoning district. This is to show you the proposed site plan. Currently, it is 2 lots consisting of total 35.2 acres, and they're proposing to subdivide it into 4 parcels, meeting the AG5 zoning district requirements. Access will be on Williams Road. Williams Road is a county-maintained unimproved roadway. As part of the proposed development, the property owners will dedicate an additional 10 feet of right-of-way along Williams Road to the north to accommodate any future roadway improvements in the future. Just some information on Williams Road. As mentioned, it's a county-maintained substandard roadway. It's a dirt road, 15 feet in width approximately. The right-of-way width is 50 feet. Ultimate right-of-way is 70 feet. As mentioned, they will dedicate that 10 feet along the north. The proportionate fair share contributions for this is $83,119 $199.70. And as mentioned, paving waiver criteria is in section 70507B2. We look at these three criterias. It's not essential to provide adequate access. That the road paving waiver is part of the county's 5-year plan. That access the road does not have adequate right-of-way in which to construct the necessary paving improvements. Just to mention again, the Williams Road is not within the county's 5-year paving plan. Williams Road is a county-owned and maintained but unimproved. There are currently no development plans along Williams Road. The road paving waiver conforms to the standards of review as set forth in the St. Lucie County Land Development Code, section 70507B2, and is consistent with the goals, objectives, and policies of the St. Lucie County Comprehensive Plan. Staff recommends the Board of County Commissioners approve the fair paving waiver and associate proportionate fair share contributions subject to the conditions of approval outlined in the draft condition. Developer shall include language on the plat stating that the owners of his and hers or assigns lots to participate in shall be a yes vote to lawfully establish an MSTU, MSBU, or other assessments districts created for the purpose of providing paving and or drainage improvements to Williams Road. This concludes staff presentation. We are available to answer any questions you may have on this.
Thank you. Tahir. Questions, comments? Open it up to public comment on this item. Anyone wishing to address the board? Seeing none, we'll come back to the board.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, that concludes our public hearing items. With that, we move into our regular agenda item.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Maite.
This item is a result of the board's discussion at your July 13th budget workshop. At that workshop, you obviously could not make decisions, so we had to prepare a formal item for your discussion and vote. As mentioned previously, the infrastructure sales tax was established in 2018 and would run through December 2028. Previously, the board adopted an ordinance 26004, in March that established the referendum for November of 2026. So if you chose to stay with that date, no other action would be needed by this board. If you choose to extend that to the November 2028 date, we would go through the actions of rescinding this ordinance and then adopting the next appropriate ordinance for that new date. Again, if you choose to go to the November 2028 date, is 1 month before the lapse of the existing infrastructure sales tax.
Okay. I have a quick question. So if it goes on, if it were to go on for this year and it were to not pass, the door is still open for us to be able to try again in 2028. Is that accurate?
That is correct, not as a continuance, but as a new infrastructure sales tax initiative.
And roughly, what is the cost to the county to have to do this each time? Is it,
I'm going to look
marginal,
at Eric.
nominal, super expensive?
I do not recall the cost, but I'm seeing if Eric knows that answer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Eric Gill, Communications Director. It's roughly staff time. I don't believe there is any real cost other than the attorney's office to draft new language and get it approved. But yeah, I don't believe there's any hard dollars other than staff time. And one of the concerns that was brought up about waiting is we don't know what the state legislature might do next year and whether or not infrastructure sales taxes will be allowed. There's some people running for governor who want to do away with local sales tax options. So again, it's an unknown, and I think that's kind of the reason the city wanted to continue the path forward with keeping it on the ballot this year.
Understood.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Klesby.
So, Port St. Lucie definitely reached out to me, and, I personally don't appreciate city staff coming to our meeting, taking up 10 minutes of public comment time to tell us whenever. I know that they've already reached out to all of us individually, so I don't really understand that. I'm sure we'll send people to their meeting one day, but I don't get that. especially whenever they're saying things to make it sound like we don't support the infrastructure sales tax. I think that's entirely inaccurate. I think unanimously everybody on the board supports the infrastructure sales tax. It's a consumption tax. It pays for roads. I don't want it on the 2026 ballot because there's Amendment 3 on it. There's the school board tax. I don't care what their survey sample size of 400 people said. I don't think it's a smart idea to put a tax on a ballot where people are being asked to basically eliminate taxes. In addition to that, it won't lapse. I mean, we just heard that if it did go to the 28 ballot, which was what we were already looking to do, there will be no lapse. There should be no change in the funding to public works either. Our local governments, including the county, need to fund public works without the sales tax in mind. We should be fully funding public works. The sales tax should be additional money. We should not be reliant on it. There's no guarantee that it's going to happen. I want it to happen, but I have no problem with putting it to the 2028 ballot. And I want it to pass then, and I want to continue doing that. And next year's budget, I would like us to continue increasing the regular funding of our, Public Works Department and Road and Bridge. Repeatedly, DeSantis and Blazingoli and all these others have said, why are you putting a sales tax on it? Why don't you just use your regular general fund dollars first to do that? Public Works, public safety, both high priorities for infrastructure. So I'm fine with putting it on the 2028 ballot.
Commissioner Lowry, were you?
Madam Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
So, as well, I was city council members reached out to me regarding this, and always open for discussion and communication regarding this. But, this is a gamble, one way or the other, whether we put it on 26 or 28. So, with 306 or 304 people polled, I read it, I reviewed it, and then I did my own polling with about 25 people that I know in the community that are aware of what this surtax does, the projects that have been completed, but also the chance of it being denied, because tax just has a negative feeling no matter what it is, and I don't feel like enough people understand that it's a continuation and not a new tax. And residents are hurting, and they're going to see the word tax and they're going to vote against it. About 90% was 90% favorable to wait till 2028 with the people that I polled personally. And in a situation like this, I feel like, if we were doing a poll with a larger sample, I would have more comfortability in possibly putting it on 26. But after I spent last week really reaching out to people in the community, I'm still sticking with, I feel like 2028 is a better decision. I reached out to people that are on the surtax committee, people that are in local government. In this board too, it shouldn't be made to feel, and I kind of felt like that when the city was talking to us, that infrastructure isn't important to us, because I think all of us on this board feel that it is very much a priority for all of us. So, it's not that we don't support it, we just want a better opportunity to make sure that it continues. And for anyone watching, you can go on the website and print out the report of all the incredible things that this surtax does. And I feel like we need to spend more time educating the public, because we don't have enough education out there yet. I did one episode of Inside St. Lucie and talked about it, but I'd like to see us getting into the HOAs, doing town halls, and educating people better, because I think right now they're going to vote no down the ballot or yes down the ballot and no on any tax. So that's my 2 cents.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Johnson.
So I agree somewhat with y'all, but I think if you go back and look at the history when this first came out, it was on the ballot. It did not pass. We went back in and looked, and we realized that a lot of it was the language. People don't realize that they live in St. Lucie County, so the municipalities had to be named. We went back in and looked, and then we all rallied, and we all did our own education in the city, and EDC and the chamber and everybody, even the fire department came on board with it. Then it did pass. So I would agree with the city that we need to put it on this election, 26. I would agree there's a lot of tax conversations on there. I would agree most of them are probably going to pass with yes votes. But I also think in the conversations I've had, and I speak at a lot of HOAs, people support this. And we have our budget of what we can do with just our regular taxing. This is a gift. And we have been able to do a lot with this gift that we've been given. When we wrote this, we also said that we wanted it to sunset. We also said that we wanted to all appoint somebody to the board and the regular community to have a say in this. And I think that Happersett Sales Tax Board's done a great job. And I think they're out there in the community and they're helping to educate as well. I think that it was great that we did that. But I feel like Eric stated even there's language coming out. There's language coming out in session. And with the tax cuts and everything else they're trying to cut, this is something they are looking at. So for me, I would rather let it go on, let the voters decide, let the residents decide what happens. We go back in and look at how close it was, look at the language, and then we have a second, we have a second shot at it. I mean, that's how we got it through the first time, was we were able to take away, after watching the election, to be able to come back and restructure it for the next election.
So when we had our informal, I didn't speak on this item. The consensus was there. Now that we're here voting on it, and at that time I was 50 one way, 50 the other way. However, after having some more conversations and understanding that, I don't know who's got good luck in this room, but I am not a lucky girl. So if I get 2 chances to win, I'm going to take 2 chances over 1 chance, okay? So for me, understanding that if it doesn't pass, and I agree that I can easily agree and say, if everyone is circling one way, why are they going to change the circle for one item? But that's okay if they don't. Then we get another stab at it. No, it doesn't expire if we don't put it on the ballot for 26, but if we put it on for 28 and it doesn't pass, we're done. We're done. We saw how in one legislative session, in a blink of an eye, we can't change our comprehensive plan and our land development code. So there's nothing stopping one legislative session from us not being able to do something with our sales tax. Everyone that's sitting in here and watching, as a reminder, that sales tax, right, everyone pays into that. So if you're a tourist coming here to visit, if you're an employee that works at the county but you live in Martin County, you're driving through and you're spending money in this county, and that's offsetting what we as taxpayers have to pay. So I'm all for having more people pay into that pot because that lessens the burden for all of us. So I also believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's polling at about 70%, believe it or not. So I see everyone's side. I was probably a wait until 28 at our informal, but I will say now I do think that we should move forward with putting it on there. We do have enough time to pick up that education. We've done it before, so we know the path, we know the process. So that would be where I stand on that issue at this point. So, but good comment, good debate with
Madam
that,
Chair,
Commissioner Glassman.
you actually can't put the same ballot measure on twice in a row. It'd have to be different.
Right, the wording. Yes, who would like to address, because we touched on that.
That is correct. So the current ballot measure would be for a continuation of the existing infrastructure surtax. Assuming it didn't pass and you wanted to attempt it again in 2028, it would be for a new infrastructure sales tax. It would be similar wording, not exact wording.
So do you want a motion?
I don't know if that-
I'll make a motion to approve that it goes from a 26 ballot, and then we come back and discuss it for 2028.
I didn't change my mind, so.
Okay. So there's a motion. Is there a second for that motion?
I can just pass the gavel.
I was going to say, right?
Larry's not
Who,
here.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
in lieu of the vice chair not being here, who do I pass the gavel to? Right.
I think you pass it just to one of the other commissioners, so
We'll come
maybe
over
the
here.
closest one.
That's it. Commissioner Lowry. So I am going to second the motion to put this on for 2026. Madam Secretary, we call the roll.
Commissioner Lowry,
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Clasby,
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Fowler,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Townsend.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
It doesn't pass because you have a tied vote.
Doesn't pass. So we can certainly try in the other direction, though I'm sure that we need to, even though we'll probably end up with the same results. If you want
Make
to
a motion
an opposing
to
motion.
continue having this on the 2028 ballot.
Second.
All right, motion and a second.
Roll call again?
Yes, please, ma'am.
Commissioner Townsend,
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Lowry,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clasby,
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Fowler.
No, ma'am, sorry. I had to remember the motion, I apologize.
Do we like rock, paper, scissors?
Madam
right?
Chair,
Yes.
Maite or Catherine, can this be tabled until we have a full
a fifth.
board and bring it back as another line item in the next meeting?
Absolutely, we can continue this to the next
That
meeting.
way we have a full
Um,
board?
Yeah.
Is there a deadline to notify the supervisor of election?
Yes, there is.
There is a deadline of, I apologize, it's August 5th, County Attorney Catherine Barbieri, but I think we have a few flex days in there because we were talking to it about the mosquito ballot too, and I think she said that really we have a few, because we have the primaries not until the 17th, and this ballot will go after that, so it's tight, but I think it could, I think the 4th would still be all right.
Okay.
Meetings on
All
the
right.
board. So do you need a motion to
I
move this to
think-
the
I
next
think we're gonna
August
need a
Motion
agenda?
to continue this to August 4th?
Yes. 6 PM or soon thereafter.
6 p.m. or
Commissioner
soon
Townsend, you're a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item number 2, County Attorney.
County Attorney Catherine Barbieri, as we know, our county administrator has resigned. His last day will be August 14th. The Board of County Commissioners has the job of appointing 2 people, the county attorney, the county administrator. So we will need a county administrator starting August 15th. I am recommending Deputy County Administrator 2, Maite Santa Maria, be appointed, and a salary adjustment of 10% for the interim appointment. It's an interim appointment. I'm recommending while the board determines what they want to do for the future.
Correct.
Move
Okay.
approval.
Second.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, OMB, setting the millage rate and our public hearing dates for budget. Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Jennifer Hill, Management and Budget Director, and with me is Jennifer Garrity, Budget Manager. This request is for the purpose of setting the maximum millage rates in compliance with the truth in millage requirements. The county is required to advise the property appraiser of the proposed millage rates, the rollback rates, and the date, time, and place of the tentative budget hearing will take place. This must be done within 35 days of the property appraiser's certification of taxable value in accordance with Section 200.065 Florida statutes. The property appraiser utilizes this information in preparing the notice of proposed property taxes, also known as the trim notice, which are mailed to each property owner in August. The trim notice is intended to inform property owners of the maximum millage rate and taxes for each taxing district. After the proposed millage rates are set, any of the millage rates may be further reduced at any time before the final budget hearing. However, none of the millage rates may be increased. At the budget workshops held at the Board of County Commissioners, or by the Board of County Commissioners on July 8th through July 13th, The board was presented with the recommendation for the fiscal year 27 budget and discussed millage rates. At these workshops, the board gave staff direction to prepare the budget utilizing the rollback rate for the general fund and to utilize the same millage rates for fiscal year 27 as we had in fiscal year 26 for our other taxing districts. After we complete tonight, the legal process for adopting the millage rates and budgets also requires 2 additional public hearings. Those are set for September 3rd and September 16th. I'm sorry, September 17th, at which time the budget will be adopted and the fiscal year starts October 1st. So the millage rates that we are considering today are what are up here on the slide. Each of these reflect the same millage rate as last year except for the general fund, which reflects the rolled back rate, bringing the overall aggregate millage rate for fiscal year 27 to 7.8341 mils. The tentative budget hearing is recommended to be on September 3rd, 2026 at 6 p.m. in these chambers, and the final budget hearing would be 2 weeks after that on September 17th, 2026 at 6 p.m. in these chambers. With that, we'd like your consideration for the millage rates and the millage rates for the trim notices and the public hearing dates.
All right, thank you, Jen. Commissioner Clasby.
Jen, could you go back to yes, does that general fund millage rate represent a reduction of 0.1544 that we discussed?
Yes.
It does, okay. I'd move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, back to planning. This is going to be for P1 Motor Club. Commissioner Clasby, your disclosures?
Yes, I've met with staff, the applicant, members of the public regarding this project.
Staff and applicant?
Planning staff and Molly and Ari Strauss. Commissioner Townsend, I'm sorry.
Planning and Ari and Molly Strauss.
Madam Chair, for the record, Thad Crow, Senior Planner. Good to see you all tonight. This is a final site plan for the P1 Motor Club. Try to move through this presentation quickly. I think we all know where it is, Okeechobee Road. 3.8 miles outside the urban service boundary, which runs along Header Canal Road. Little history, in 2303, the original comprehensive plan amendment was passed to establish a special district for the P1 Motor Club, followed by a second comprehensive plan amendment essentially clarifying the provision of utilities, specifically water, allowing for public or private provision of potable water. That was in 2025. The PMUD, Planned Mixed-Use Development, was approved in 2025 as well. And you can see on the lower left-hand side, this is the original special district comprehensive plan exhibit, and on the right, this is the adopted PMUD exhibit. This is just a more dressed-up version of the site plan. You can see it's on the right-hand side is one of the tracks. On the left-hand side is the second track, Treasure Coast Circuit and the P1 Circuit. Now, a lot of this stuff is way into the future. The garage mahals, the residences, the R&D park. Right now, the applicant is focusing on these two tracks, and the karting track. Just some labels on this. The two main tracks are, the longer track is the P1 Circuit on the east, 4.2 miles, and then the Treasure Coast Circuit on the west is that should be 2.9 miles. Also, we have the karting circuit, but really we're just focusing on this first phase on getting the tracks in. This exhibit shows essentially the side entrance, which is in the upper left on Okeechobee Road, the main entrance. And it's important to notice the distinction in this. We have the racetracks and then we have the non-racetracks. what we call non-track streets, and this is how people will get around within the development, essentially. The applicant did have a conceptual landscape ecological plan that they submitted with this application, and it's their intent to work with their landscape firm essentially to develop landscaping in kind of a thoughtful way, comprehensive way across the whole site, establishing ecosystems essentially, such as native oasis with palms and shade, regenerative. Most of the property would be regenerative with the track side. Don't want a lot of big trees by the tracks, so essentially this would be low, kind of scrubby vegetation. A lot of this is definitely native vegetation, water smart. I think it exhibits the applicant's intent to make this kind of a quality ecological. This is a blank slate. I mean, there's no native vegetation on it, and this is an opportunity to establish reforestation and reintroducing native communities to the site. So with the recommended conditions, we believe the major site plan is consistent with the adopted P1NC special district, the PMUD site plan, landscape plan, and we believe that the landscape buffers, standards limiting intensity, maximum event attendance, and other elements will limit the impacts on nearby properties. We are recommending that the northern and eastern buffer at a minimum should be required in this first phase. So the landscaping is a work in progress. The applicant has not provided complete details, and ERD has stepped up and worked with us, and their stance on this is that a finalized landscape plan should be required prior to development, and required landscaping in place prior to the site development permit. Environmental, there were some wildlife species noted on the site, and surveys for the endangered or the listed species in this case will be required prior to development. Also, a special condition of the special district was to look at the impacts to the wildlife on the big lakes. They're going to be built, they're now being built in the process to the south and to the west. So traffic impacts of the tracks, we don't know them. We would like the applicant, and the applicant has agreed to give us their best estimates on the trips generated by the tracks themselves, whether that be on a day-to-day basis, a special event. I think we just want to be able to present to you the impacts of this first phase in terms of traffic. The Land Development Code and PMUD do require sidewalks and bicycle lanes on internal access streets, the non-track streets. And again, there's no utilities proposed for this phase. Temporary restrooms will be utilized. So run through the conditions. There's 33. And a lot of these are tinkering kind of conditions. But number one, we wanted to see architectural elevations and landscape plan determining that this temporary facility will meet the community architectural standards. There is some debate as whether it applies since it is a temporary facility, but our stance has been that we want this to look good at the outset. Second, number two, essentially just some housekeeping in the Cadence final concept plan, the ecological study that I referenced earlier, essentially to either make sure the exhibits meet code or put in a notation that says, hey, this is conceptual only. Talked about the wildlife analysis on the reservoirs to the south and west. And the PDS director, this is going to be an ongoing thing because right now it's a moving target. The reservoirs are not complete. So I think that the applicant will be having their environmental experts look at, I guess, industry standards in terms of the impacts of development on large reservoirs and lakes and waterfowl. Our PDS director has the ability to bump this back up to you if there's some issues of concern that arise. We struck some of these that were taken care of, essentially. There were some buildings that were showing up on the plan that were taken off, so 5 is gone. 6 is essentially discussing the non-track roads, not the track roads. And this provides the ability to either have the bike lanes and the sidewalk separate, sidewalk required on one side of the street, bike lanes. Now they can be together or they can be separate. And 7, essentially, this calls for shade trees along the non-track streets with a spacing of 30 feet with the intent to create a pleasing environment and also to slow down the traffic on these non-track streets. Number 8, again, we need to see a trip generation for the track itself, discussed previously. Number 9, would like to see the fencing material and height on the site data table. We would like to see on the major site plan how those emergency vehicles will access the site. Just a notation on the plan. That's a very important element of this in terms of the racing involved. Number 11, essentially we want to know that the restroom building is sufficient in terms of health department requirements, in terms of is it enough facilities to serve the public that will be there. So moving on, these are just what we call cleanup items, and I'll just very quickly move through them, but some corrections, non-substantive corrections here for the site data table, showing the Knox boxes, where they're located, some sign elevations, correcting misspellings, and none of these are really earth-shattering. These are just, we want complete clarity and clarification on this site plan. Number 25, again, these are standard ERD conditions for all the developments that come through the listed survey. Species surveys have to be updated on a regular basis as the development approaches. Number 26, of course, vegetation removal permit is required. There is no vegetation, so this is paperwork more or less, just filling out the forms to make sure it's on the record. Number 27, landscape plan is required. The applicant shall provide a finalized landscape plan that includes the detailed planning plans in lieu of a landscape typicals plan. We need more than the typicals. We need a specific detailed landscape plan prior to the commencement of development. ERD conditions continuing prior, and this is ERD's position, prior to closing out the site development permit and any use of the tracks before they start doing the racing. All required landscaping shall be installed, inspected, and approved. Now, this is really going to be the north buffer on Okeechobee, in our minds, the east buffer on Summerlin. It'll be the street, non-track streets that are being developed, the street trees for those streets. The rest will follow later. I think that we've agreed with the applicant in the sense that as they phase this in, they put in the landscaping that's required. Public Works, site development permit required before the commencement of clearing and grading. And Public Works has taken the position that before the track commences, the applicant shall pave Summerlin Road from the construction access point to the nearest paved roadway. Number 32, within 90 days of adoption, the applicant shall convey the right-of-way for Summerlin Road, 15 to 40 feet of right-of-way along Summerlin Road. And the last, 33rd condition, before commencement of any track operations, the applicant shall obtain county approval with street names and install street signs. Madam Chair, thank you for your patience, and happy to answer any questions with the planning manager here too.
All right, thank you. Come back to the board. Questions, comments?
I'll move approval.
Public hearing or?
No, this is a regular agenda item.
Second.
Motion and a second. Oh, Cory.
Madam Chair, members of the board, if I
Yes, sir.
may, the applicant is present. The applicant does have a handful of conditions of approval that they would like to explore with the board, potentially
Okay.
propose alternatives of, if procedurally the board would entertain that
Absolutely.
discussion.
Good evening.
Good evening. Ari Strauss, 10739 Northwest Moonrise Lane, Port St. Lucie. Thank you for having us here, Madam Chair, members of the board. Really appreciate the staff getting us here today. We just have a handful of really minor conditions that we would ask the board to consider. modify, and if accepted, then would ask for the board's motion to incorporate those changes into the motion. As you know, we've had a number of delays. We're still working through some water agreements, and while it's in discussion, it's really critical that we demonstrate some progress. And so we're anxious to get the First Circuit up and running, hopefully in several months for our members. Even though we'll have no verticals in its temporary buildings, it's still really important that we show some evolution and progress. If we could pull up, if it'd be okay, Corey, or Thad, number 6. Here we would ask, if possible, to modify removing the sentence that requires that we separate the bicycle lanes from the roadway, the bicycle or walking lanes from the roadway. We intend to build the cross sections that are included in the PMUD plans, which actually has a 7-foot travel lane on both sides of the road. And we would adhere to these cross sections unless we provide an alternate travel path that pulls members or guests away from the travel lanes. In some of our landscape renderings, we show areas where a pedestrian or bike could actually leave the travel lane and then go through unpaved sections. So, as Commissioner Claspy said, it's nice to not pave everything, and we're doing our best, despite having a racetrack and a ribbon of asphalt, to actually pave less. So that would be our one request on number 6, is to remove the reference to separating them, and then just noting that where we can provide an alternate for pedestrians and bikes, that we would then remove that section of the lane. On number 7, very minor change, asking if we could change it from shade trees to native trees. That supports pedestrian movement averaging 30 feet instead of a maximum or minimum spacing. The idea is give us flexibility with an average of 30 feet for it to not look like a cookie cutter project. Instead, we want it to appear more like native plantings where there's things in some clusters. Again, as kind of shown in the renderings. We're committing to all the landscaping that we would need to, be asked to put in there, just that it look more natural and native. On number 27, here we would ask for, rather than prior to commencement of development, that within 12 months of the commencement of development, that we would provide the finalized landscape plan. That includes the detailed planting plans in lieu of the landscape typicals. So again, it's just within 12 months. And then within 24 months of commencement, we will complete all the landscaping plans for Okeechobee Road, the entrance, all the completed interior roads, and the littoral plantings around the stormwater management ponds and lakes. The idea here is that, as you know, we're building this in phases over years, and we've had some delays on getting a start. As we get the first track up and running, and there's a lot of work going around the site, and earth moving equipment and ponds being dug, that it would be difficult to have all of the landscaping done and in place. So we're asking for some time, that once we start development within 12 months, again, we complete that around those areas, and that again, within 24 months of the commencement, all of it's done at the entrance along Okeechobee Road, interior roads, and littoral plantings. On 31, a reference to Summerlin Road. We would ask, if possible, to remove this because we're not using Summerlin Road. We're not using it for construction or otherwise in this phase. The primary user of Summerlin Road is South Florida Water Management, as they prepare to start working on the reservoirs to our south and eventually to our west. So we're not using Summerlin Road otherwise now. And then the last would be on 32. If we could ask that instead of 90 days from adoption of the resolution, that we have 180 days. We need a bit more time because we're trying to work with staff and a neighbor on ways we might actually save the native vegetation along Summerlin Road, whereas right now, we would actually have to remove it. So we're looking at how we can modify the right-of-way, so still providing the right-of-way, but saving that vegetation. And Madam Chair, members of the board, happy to answer any additional questions.
Ari, thank you. Come back to the board. Commissioner Cosby.
Corey, does planning have any objections to their conditions, modifications?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Clasby, I think that planning staff doesn't have any direct opposition to the proposed modifications. I know in coordination with the Environmental Resources Department, our urge is for some specificity and clarity as to the landscape installation, initial phase, mid phases, and then long range to ensure that the adopted PMUD is implemented appropriately. The provision of time, I don't think we have concerns or conflicts with, as long as we have a plan, a goal that, of course, may be modified through future action by the Board of County Commissioners, but we want to ensure that there's clear understanding of what is to be installed, delivered, certified, inspected, and maintained on the property. And I think with some specified terms, that's achievable in agreement with the applicant.
Okay, and just to share with the board, that was basically a conversation I had with planning and ERD in my office, is that, I don't mind delaying when they are compliant with their landscaping requirements, only that they eventually do. And 12 months for that portion on number 27 with 24 months of the NOC that it's all completed seems like a reasonable timeline. See, Amy's coming up here. Did you want to add something?
Good evening, Amy Cooper with Environmental Regulations. I just want to get some clarity for 27. Again, if you could, please.
For 27, within 12 months of commencement of the development, and then it would continue, applicant shall provide all the way to the landscape typicals plan. Within 24 months of commencement, we will complete the landscaping plans for Okeechobee Road, the entrance, all of the completed interior roads, and all the littoral plantings around the stormwater management ponds and lakes. And if that modification is approved, I believe that eliminates number 28.
So while they're looking at that, it's a really unique project. It's a special district of its own, and I would definitely want to see it be successful. So I'm willing to, personally, I'm willing to give them a little bit of leniency on the timeline of when some of these approvals need to take place. The only caveat is that they need to take place, in my mind.
Correct.
So, Madam Chair, would you like a motion with those changes?
I think they were looking
I
at
think we're just waiting to understand if ERD is good with the change to that number 27, and then we would.
We need to get hold music.
Right.
Can I just ask one clarifying question while they're doing their quick talk? On number 6, was it the standalone sentence or the or part that you were asking for?
The standalone
Okay.
sentence,
I just wanted to make sure I jotted the right notes.
it says the standalone, the sidewalk or bicycle lane shall be appropriately separated from the roadway. And our PMUD cross-section has them all connected with 7 feet on both sides.
Good evening, Board. My name is Brian Ingram with Environmental Resources.
Hi, Brian.
I think ERD's intent here is to get I think we're kind of okay with deferring some of it, but by eliminating condition of approval 28, they would be authorized to use the track without the code-required landscaping.
That has been our primary concern, that the landscaping should be installed prior to the use of the track.
Understood.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Cosby.
So what is the expectation when you're in your construction process, at what milestone would you actually want to start enjoying the track? I mean, how many months into the NOC?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Clasby, the first track, the smaller track on the west side called the Treasure Coast Circuit, would be the first one to open, and we hope that it would be operational in a few months, while there's a lot of work still going on by the entrance and the rest of the area. The second circuit, the P1 circuit, we would hope would be operational roughly at the end of next year. So it is a good bit away. So while we're showing some activity and continuing to develop the landscaping and other activities, we would then begin working on the P1 circuit, and again, keeping tight timelines to still finish full landscaping around a beautiful entrance all along Okeechobee Road and all around finished interior roads, for example, that allow people to get to that Treasure Coast circuit while even the P1 circuit is under the development.
Is there a portion of the landscaping that you're willing to commit to having complete before that track is used?
If we were to, Commissioner Clasby, if we were to attempt to complete all the landscaping plans and landscaping in advance of the Treasure Coast circuit, it would halt the entire project, and there would be a lot of work going on around it. So our intent is to provide landscaping that is, as you can see in the renderings, they're not only exceptional, but really exceed everything that would be required in code. But we're doing our best, having hit some of these delays, to show some momentum by having a driving circuit. The members who have already joined will give us a lot of leeway if they have a place they can start to drive, even though we'll be using temporary trailers, bathrooms, and other temporary facilities while the rest is under construction. But our commitment is to landscaping that is, again, exceeds and above and beyond what would normally be required. We would ask respectfully to have some time to actually develop that while we keep the business going.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Townsend.
So you're saying you wanted the Treasure Coast Circuit track to be done. Are you going to have any landscaping around that when it's done?
So we would have minimal landscaping around the Treasure Coast Circuit initially, because there'd still be a lot of construction activity happening
Correct.
around that circuit and at the entrance that's coming in, which we have a separate area that provides safe access for a construction entrance at that northwest corner as well.
Okay.
So we're trying our best, Commissioner Townsend, to avoid having to put in temporary landscaping, kill it, remove it, and replace it.
No, right, and also the irrigation, and then as you continue on with the other track and some more development, it's going to get messed up. So it doesn't make sense to put in landscaping where you're going to have all that. So Amy, is your goal to not let them have anything open around the tracks until all the landscaping is done? Because I would agree with the applicant that it's only going to get tore up, irrigation is going to be destroyed. So if they were going to be phasing it in as they go, I would think that would be the right thing to do.
Commissioner Townsend, I don't think that
Okay.
is our intent. What we would like to see is an idea of what the minimal landscaping would be for that first track, and then would it be possible to have the landscaping installed with the second track? I'm not sure what that timing is.
Okay, but so are you saying that you want the landscaping done around that track?
Well, he said that there was
before the housing and development goes in? Is that what your ask is?
And are we talking about the first track or the second track?
The second.
So I am asking what kind of landscaping can we have installed? So I need to kind of have some details here, what the minimal would be installed for the first track so that we have a better understanding. And then for the second track, would it be possible to have a majority of the landscaping installed for that second track?
Thank you for your question, and we could commit to that. So for clarification, within 12 months of commencing development, we'll provide the finalized landscape plan. And where I suggested within 24 months of commencement, we will complete the plans for Okeechobee Road entrance, interior roads, and littoral plantings around the ponds. we could commit to having that done before the second track, the P1 circuit, is open and available for members and guests, since we believe it will be roughly towards the end of next year, so roughly a year and a half instead of the 2 years we asked for. If that is amenable to Chair Fowler, commissioners, and yourself, we would be amenable to that as well.
I'm gonna say I'm okay with what he's asking.
And I think that is something that we can definitely work with.
Commissioner Lowry.
I was just going to say, this is like unlike any project we've ever seen in St. Lucie County, so it's hard to make a comparison. This isn't just a development project. This isn't a go-kart track. This is a multi-million-dollar beyond project that I have no doubt you're going above and beyond to make this state-of-the-art. Landscaping is usually a priority for me, but I know, Ari, I trust you and the vision and what you're the expert in this, and I'm fully on board with all of the conditions that you requested tonight.
Chair Fowler, Commissioner Lowry, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, do you want a motion now?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Crosby.
was there a full landscape plan to view?
Commissioner, there is a typical landscape plan at the moment. We were asking for a complete landscape plan with all the details that we usually have prior to commencement of development.
So, I mean, was that a condition in there?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Yeah, I'm for what they're asking for as well. There are additional conditions, and just to make sure that there is a detailed landscape plan to match up against what it is you're saying you're going to put, where you're going to put it, and that way we can ensure that within 24 months it is there. So, yeah.
Our dilemma is we want to revise the landscape plan based off the landscape architect's visions. We weren't able to get that in for this submission for the 2 tracks, and that's why we're looking at that 12 months to get that plan in, to show a different plan, hopefully, with some deviation, and we would still exceed the code. That's the intent.
Madam Chair, and it's also because you wanted to change it to native plants.
It's almost all native,
Right.
the direction we're heading.
Okay.
And obviously, that's positive, and the goal is also to maintain as much of the native vegetation along Summerlin that we can, because there's a great buffer there that exists, and that's one of the reasons for the shift. But you're dealing with a raw site. I think one of the things that's been interesting with the project is it's almost 630 acres. It's phased, although you're seeing the 630 acres with the 2 tracks and some roads and some lakes. To do all the landscaping around the entire site, to do those 2 things seems sort of counterproductive and a waste of energy and time. I equate this to, I'm a planner, we're typically used to seeing a residential subdivision, and you might have 100 acres, and then they go to Pod B, and it's 150 acres. So you're gradually making those improvements as you move along, as opposed to a 630-acre site with, miles of frontage and property lines all at one time within a 2-year period. And part of it that concerned us is the waste, what goes untaken care of over that time because of the activities going on all over the site.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second actually from earlier before you guys stepped up to the podium. I will say if staff is now good, likewise, I just want to make sure that there were some guardrails, some timeframes, and and it not just be at a later date. I do just want to say on the record that I will be expecting that landscape plan to meet what we're talking about, our code and whatnot. I know we've done some modifications, but I'm not going to be interested in reducing any landscape requirements down the road. I just want to make that clear this evening. So, but you guys know that I support you. I support this project and anything. This is a very, unique, different type of project. So, whatever we can do to help get it running.
I think we're all for it, so.
So do you want me to restate my motion because it's
Yes,
changed?
yeah.
I think I
correct.
made a motion the first time for staff's recommendation.
Oh, hold on, we're getting a finger from Maite, hold on.
I'm sorry, can I just clarify so I understand which items, just to clarify what we're doing? So number 6, removing the sentence about sidewalk and bike lane separation. Number 7, changing shade trees to native trees in an average of a 30-foot spacing. Number 27, within 12 months of commencement, provide the final landscape plans, and then complete the planting for Okeechobee Road, the entrance, interior roads, and the littorals before the P1 circuit is operational and open. Number 31, remove the paving of Summerlin Road. And number 32, provide 180 days to convey the right-of-way. I just want to confirm we're all on the same page.
That sounds,
Thank
that's
you.
what I
And
have written down.
remove number 28, which I believe is eliminated with that modification to number 27.
Okay. We're just taking a second.
So do you want me to restate my motion? So I'm going to make the motion to approve with the changes, and Maite noted them, so I don't have to know them, per what Maite said.
Okay.
Got a comment? Is staff good with, do we need to modify 28? We're good with just removing 28?
Chair Fowler, Commissioner Clasby, I understand 28 essentially can be merged with 27. That requires prior to operations and certification of the P1 circuit that the landscaping at the entrance along Okeechobee Road and the littoral plantings are completed. So whether we merge them into a consolidated 27 or keep separate, I think there's flexibility. With regards to 27 and the 12-month timeline for final landscape plans, want to clarify whether that's for phase 1 or the overall development, and should there be any conflicts, whether that would simply come back to the Board of County
Madam Chair,
Commissioners
my
for an
motion
action.
would be for overall.
For what? I'm sorry.
That's the entire-
Overall.
Overall.
Thank you.
Second?
All right, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank
Chair
you.
Fowler, members of the board, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, and with that, we're going to end with our administrative update from Ben. Good evening.
All right. Thank you, Chair Fowler and Commissioners. Ben Balser, Planning and Development Services Director for the record. And this is the monthly update for projects that were administratively approved during the month of June. The first project is a major adjustment to the United Teleports minor site plan. This allows for the construction of a satellite communications terminal facility on the southeast portion of the United Teleports property. It's located on the west side of Rangeline Road, and it is within the industrial heavy zoning district. The fence compound will contain satellite antenna foundations and equipment pads with underground power and a fiber network. The facility is intended to support low orbit satellite communications operations as part of Amazon's broadband communications network. And the only other project tonight is the minor adjustment to the Seagrove PUD. You all are familiar with this. It's under active construction. It's on the east side of US 1, just south of the Indian River County line. The adjustment includes many minor site modifications, such as the striping at US 1 and Kings Highway at the direction of FDOT, removing the median divider separating the resident and guest access drives. It added another 5 architectural models for their 50-foot wide single-family home lots. It solidified the location of the emergency access from Old Dixie Highway, and they shifted the location of some of the landscaping, trees and shrubs, and they provided updated landscape plans for those that ERD approved. And that concludes the agenda item. Do you have any questions?
Everyone looks good. Thanks, Ben. I appreciate it.
Thank you all.
All right, and with that, I'll bring it back to the board for any commissioner comments.
Madam Chair, I have a
Commissioner
question. On August 18th, we have a meeting. It's the election. I know in the past, we've generally not had a meeting on election days. I don't know how this one got through. So I don't know if the board is interested in maybe moving that to 9 a.m. so that those that are having a campaign can go do what they have to do in the afternoon and the evening, and at least they'll be here for a morning meeting, just a thought.
Okay.
And I don't know how we ended up with the third meeting on nights too, but that's irrelevant. I just want to be fair to any of y'all that are campaigning or whatever. It would be better probably to have that at a 9 a.m. because this has been advertised. I don't think we can change this meeting, but we can change the time.
Right.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Clasby?
Just to respond to that, and to remind you, we have a fire board shade meeting that morning, and I think that with it, the election day is on the 19th? 18th. Okay,
That
one
was
second.
2 p.m.
That was,
Did it get
that's
changed?
the wrong day.
Okay, okay.
I mean, if it's on election day, I would think that we just move the meeting to an alternative day period, because that way we don't, I mean, we can, right?
It's been advertised.
We'd have to re-advertise it if you'd like to do that, and we'd look to see if you have availability on whatever other date you're choosing. The other option is if you'd like to cancel that meeting, you can do that as well.
I definitely agree. I don't think it's fair. We have 2 members of our board that are actively, in an election.
Well, that's why I bring it up, because I want to be fair to everybody on election day.
Absolutely.
And in the past, we usually have canceled our meetings, period. We've not really had them on election day. I think this was just an error that slipped by.
I'm more inclined to say that we should cancel that meeting or look to move it to an alternative
Madam
day.
Chair, James, we got to be careful because things are time constrained, and with planning, what they've already moved on to that meeting, to back it up more, some of this stuff is time sensitive. So Maite, you might be able to respond to that.
Just as an alternative, we currently have August 19th, the day after the 18th, already held on everybody's calendar as the backup date. So if you'd like to choose that as an alternative, we can renotice the meetings.
That's probably better.
We do have a fire board meeting that day, but generally it ends around 4 to 4:30.
Yeah, I think
Just to
we
throw
would
it
be
up.
fine.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that is, I definitely would rather not cancel a meeting, again, to keep business flowing, but I would be fine with either an alternate date or alternate time. And August 19th, you're right, there's already a hold, so if that were to be good with everyone, that works for me. Works for me. Okay. Anything else, Commissioner Townsend?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Clasby?
Madam Chair, so I kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. I've been talking it out with staff and administration about the idea of making it easier to develop, taking some of the barriers away to develop larger tracts of land, specifically agricultural, residential, AG1 type properties. There's a lot of county requirements that a lot of people say makes it too burdensome to develop at that density of 1 unit per acre. I'd like to see at an upcoming informal meeting, we could maybe have staff do a little bit of an analysis of what impediments there are out there that we could potentially change or modify to make it easier to develop, 1 unit per acre on an agricultural piece of property. Whether that be, to automatically allow them to not have to pave their streets. Some people like to be on dirt roads. I mean, if somebody has a piece of property and would like to build their one house and they got to, have a road that's 4 miles out to it, it's kind of crazy. We would make them pave it. There's a lot of scenarios out there, and I just would like to maybe have an organized, intelligent discussion of what impediments there are to developing Ag 1 properties and what we could potentially do about it to encourage that type of development, rather than, they're not able to develop their property under 1 unit per acre, so they come in and try to put 1,000 townhomes on it. I mean, I'd much rather have the one house than 1,000, so.
Sure.
If we could look to, ask, it probably need to give staff an appropriate time to put something together. But again, the idea would be to look at what impediments there are to developing these larger pieces of land with larger parcels, and what we can do as a board to help those property owners develop it that way.
Very good. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Lowry?
I'm good.
So honestly, similar comments. I think we've probably all met with a particular family that is having sort of that very issue, wanting to do sort of what on the surface would be a very simple split, or should, you know, in our minds, should be a simple split, but of course, code and everything else dictates otherwise. So when we do that informal, and I'll actually get it to staff as soon as possible, I've named it Ag Preservation and Family Farm Development Standards.
Does it have an acronym?
I know, right? I have to work on it, but it's something to do exactly just that. Say you have a family, they have 40 acres, and they're just wanting to partition off some, you know, and separate it into 2 additional pieces so that their children can build houses, right? They're not going to build a subdivision, a suburban subdivision. They just, I think in those instances, it doesn't make sense to put in a 60-foot wide road with curb and gutter and all the things. So I'm glad to, very glad to be having that conversation as a future informal.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner
You know,
Crosby?
just to tag on to that, and it just kind of sparked in my mind, but a while back, there was 2 gentlemen that owned property off of Rock Road, and I don't know, I'm assuming they met with all 5 of us individually, but they were looking to expand the allowable, permitted, and conditional uses in AG5. I think that could be an appropriate part of that conversation. You know, we need to, people that own large pieces of land, we need to allow them to, Ag 5 properties are supposed to be income producing properties for the property owner. I mean, it's farming, right? It's like you're supposed to be able to do something. But, you know, we're kind of moving into a new era that row crops are not exactly the most profitable thing in Florida at this point. So I'd like to see if we could, you know, add on to that conversation, you know, some of the things that they've recommended that staff feels could be appropriate for our Ag 5 areas, and just a general discussion of how we make ag properties more viable for those property owners to stay in ag rather than to convert to a PUD or whatever else.
All right, well, very good. And with that, who's doing our upcoming meetings? Is that you, Maite?
I am
Or is it
inviting Tom to speak up.
Oh, she threw it to you.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The Board of County Commissioners will hold a regular meeting on Tuesday, August 4th, 2026 at 6 p.m. here in the County Commission chambers. Also, the Board of County Commissioners will hold an informal meeting on Tuesday, August 11th, 2026 at 9 a.m., also here in the County Commission chambers. The St. Lucie County Board of County Commissioners will also be attending a special event hosted by the University of Florida IFAS Extension, St. Lucie County 4-H Association, and 4-H clubs on Thursday, August 11th, 2026 at 5 p.m. at the Fenn Center. And then finally, the Board of County Commissioners will hold a regular meeting now on Wednesday, August 19th, 2026 at 6 p.m. here in the County Commission chambers. That's all, and I will turn it over to Eric for announcements.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Madam Chair. St. Lucie County's Parks and Rec staff is inviting residents and visitors to learn how to safely escape one of the ocean's most dangerous hazards through a free rip current safety demonstration at the Ravenswood Pool this summer. We actually have an update to this announcement. The park staff already held one of these events, and it was so popular, they've added a second one. So in addition to Sunday, August 16th, they will be doing an event Saturday, August 1st from 11 to 1. Both of those events will be at the Ravenswood Pool in Port St. Lucie. Registration is limited to 50 people, and residents can sign up at stlucieco.gov/aquatics to sign up for that event. Additionally, St. Lucie County's Parks and Recreation staff is now offering line dancing classes for adults on Mondays from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the Fenn Center, located at 2000 Virginia Avenue. The cost is $10 per session, and it's led by instructor Corrine Lexer. This fun, energetic program welcomes participants ages 18 and older of all experience levels, and participants can register in advance by calling the Fenn Center Monday through Friday between 9 and 4 p.m. at 772-462-1521, or they can register online at stlucieco.gov/calendar and click on the Monday event that they want to attend. Walk-ins are welcome as long as space allows, and apparently last night was the first event and it was well attended, so if you're interested, sign up in advance.
Awesome, thank you. All right, everyone, we are adjourned. Have a nice night.